What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 125 of the Big Five Pod. Different cadence this time. Don't care. I'm your co-host, Kyle Morello. Next to me, co-host Jake Copestick. Cope, been a little bit, but we're back with another great one today, and we'll get into those details in a second. But having Drexel head coach Zack on. First and foremost, though, how are you?
Doing well. Just saw my dad was down at Rehoboth this past weekend. Might be my last shore weekend. Man, the summer's flying by. But it's all right because me and you love football. So football's back. Can you believe we're gonna watch college football from Dublin, Ireland on Saturday? It's here already.
Cope, before that, we're going to have our eighth annual fantasy draft of our friends on Friday.
Right
It's
on.
pretty crazy. So
Yeah.
we've been doing this since either your freshman year or your senior year of high school. But either way, we've been doing this for a long time. Very exciting stuff. So that's first and foremost, Cope. That's one of my favorite days of the year. Shout out to the round table.
Yeah.
But
Great.
yeah,
You got
Cope, summer's flown by. Honestly, I would almost consider it fall at this point, at least in my mind. I know the weather maybe not matching up quite like that yet. It's still, in the mid to upper 80s right now. But in my mind, we're getting into fall. I've been seeing fall stuff in the store. You know what I'm saying? So
I hope it comes because like I love the summer, but I mean when it's gates of hell level hot outside, you don't love the summer anymore. I'm ready for like a crisp, like high 50s, low 60s fall day. Take a nice walk in the fall, just post up on the couch, watch football the rest of the day.
yeah,
I'm ready to do that. But it's coming.
fall's the best season.
And in that case, college hoops is coming too. Got to
Is
wait a
that?
little bit longer, but it is coming.
Listen, that's the end of fall, toward the end of fall there in early November. So we are going to be here before you know it. Cope, obviously, we're going to start this episode with some quick hitters. So grab the basketball. You got it ready. Perfect. We're going to get into the Zach Spiker interview in a little bit. Right now, we got some quick hitters. First and foremost, I want to mention this off the bat because this is an exciting thing, not just for you and me, but for college basketball fans as a whole. And I know we're talking about fall right now. This isn't until the spring when March rolls around, but no NCAA tournament expansion this season. We are staying at 68 teams for the 2026 season, both men's and women's. That feels really good to say. So I'm going to let you dive into that more. Cope, you got that ball. Get it going, but no tournament expansion this year.
Thank the Lord, Kyle. Thank the Lord. 2026 NCAA tournament will remain at 68 teams, despite there being meetings, despite there being discussions that may not be the case. But both the men's and women's Division I basketball committees, they did not reach a decision. They met in July, couldn't reach a decision then. Just get to a time where we're too close to the start of the season where it's going to have to wait. And thankfully they did. Hopefully it never happens, but at the very least, Kyle, let's take it one day at a time. It won't be happening this season. With that, though, Dan Gavitt, Senior Vice President of Basketball for the NCAA, said that conversations will continue to expand the tournament to 72, a lesser extent 72. Basically, Kyle, we're down to keeping it 68 or bumping up 8 teams to 76 per a article by CBS Sports from the great Matt Norlander. It's still on the table for next season, though. This season will be at 68. Hopefully, Kyle, I don't have to utter the words. This is the last iteration of the 68 team. Perfect postseason in sports that we have to touch. But we get it for this season. Who knows if it's going to come? It just got to be too late in the year with like logistics. And if they're going to have multiple Tuesday and Wednesday sites, you got to book that because they're getting booked up. But Kyle, I'll end with this. Shirley Donovan, to summarize here, tweeted out, NCAA, you, pointing at the camera, you are the latest victim of cyberbullying, as you honestly should have been. You shouldn't touch this tournament. You should keep it at 68. Shout out to everybody, all the sickos on college basketball Twitter. We did it, guys, at least for one more year. Good for all of you, and shame on you, NCAA, for trying to do this. You won't get us this year. We'll move on, Kyle, before I start to get any madder. We'll start with some player news here. Unfortunate one here, Kyle, out of LaSalle. Marcus Randolph, he had his waiver denied by the NCAA to play a fifth year, and he will not be part of the Explorers team this season. He played here. It's a little hairy. Was it justifiable that he got a fifth year? Was it not? Played 2 years at Richmond, then he played 2 at St. Peter's. It's a local guy from right over the bridge in Willingboro, New Jersey. Played at Archbishop Wood. Career best, though, is promising that, hey, you get a fifth-year guy, just came off a season averaging over 14 points a game with with St. Peter's under Bashir Mason. But here's where it got shady. He played at Richmond 21-22 season when they won the Atlantic 10 tournament, when people were making billboards in Richmond because they wanted Philly's very own Chris Mooney to get fired. They won the A10 tournament. They upset Iowa in the first round. He was on that team as a freshman. He played in only 9 games. Didn't see extended minutes really in any of those games, but he played 5 games in conference play, 2 of which actually came against LaSalle. And he even checked into Richmond's loss at the very end of the game to Providence in a round of 32 that year. I guess it's just because he played in games that late in the season that he didn't get it, but there wasn't an injury. It just was he was a freshman, and he was playing by. I mean, Jacob Gilliard set the steals record because he was in his 6th season. That was a COVID year where there was Grant Golden, I think, was in his 6th year too. It was just an older team ahead of him, and because of that, there's no injury issue, there's no redshirt issue. He's not given his waiver. Staff knew this was a possibility. It's just unfortunate to see that this guy was practicing and the NCAA let him practice and then he's shut down. I think it's totally unfair to Marcus Randolph and totally unfair to LaSalle to even give them any hope that, they could have used this roster spot on somebody earlier. I'll get into who they picked up, but to me, it's just unfair to LaSalle, to Marcus Randolph that this is the case, but he will not be a part of the Explorers this year. Kyle, moving on, because we're going to talk about 2 guys that LaSalle picked up. First being Damon Strand, a transfer from Albany. He's originally from Plainfield, New Jersey. He attended Roselle Catholic High School, very good high school up there in North Jersey. After Roselle Catholic, he played at, is it Raritan Valley CC or Raritan? I don't want to say it right and piss off the North Jersey people. No? Okay.
I'm not sure.
No.
I can't say I've ever heard of the school, so I don't want to get it wrong either.
No help. Thanks for being here, Kyle. Let's say it's Raritan Valley CC. He was 2nd-team All-American in D2. 2 seasons ago. Played in 16 games for Dwayne Killings in the Albany Great Danes this last season. 2.6 points, 1.1 rebounds. Going to play his true senior season, though, for the Explorers. So that is one spot they filled up. The other, Kyle, and this is an interesting one. Everybody should be pulling for this to work and for this guy to be good. I hope I'm saying this guy's name right, Kyle. He was not on a roster the last 2 years, so I don't have a pronunciation for you. I'm going to say it's Max Lipacis. Lipacis. He is a transfer from Drexel into the LaSalle program, Kyle, but this man transferred in from being a regular business student. He was not on the team at Drexel the last 2 years. From Piedmont, California, attended Head Royce High School in Oakland, California, but just went to Drexel and was just a normal student. But he's a good high school player, and apparently this offseason he snuck his way into some runs in the area, and the LaSalle staff found him. And now he's on the Explorers. We should all be rooting for this guy to work. This is almost like, do you remember a couple years ago, I think his name was Donovan Sheehy Giuseppe, the guy from the Browns who lied about knowing somebody at a tryout and ended up playing on the Browns in the preseason. This is almost what this is like. This is like the college version of Sheehy Giuseppe, who had a punt return touchdown in the preseason. So wild one here, but there's a spot available. With Marcus Randolph's unfortunate situation, Max Lipacis, I am so sorry if I'm not saying your last name right, but I am wishing you very much success because this could be quite the story, Kyle. If this guy can contribute and find a way, even in a limited role, in any way to impact the team, this would be quite the story here.
Also, I looked up, and I think it's Raritan. Based off my Google searches there's people who pronounce it Raritan or Raritan. So it's one of the two. It wasn't the other way you pronounce it though. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew you were correct.
Okay. Thank you. The more you know. I think I said Raritan, but if I did, I very much apologize to the North Jersey crowd. Speaking of New Jersey, Kyle, great segue. Thank you for that. You set me up for success here. Scheduling news. St. Joseph's for the 3rd straight season is going to be playing Princeton as part of their non-conference schedule. However, this will not be at Hagan Arena, and it will not be at Jadwin Gymnasium either, which I would prefer it be played at Jadwin instead of this place. You can argue with me if you think Jadwin's a good arena or not. It will be played in Trenton, New Jersey, Kyle. Trenton makes the world takes the capital of the Garden State at Cure Insurance Arena in Trenton on Sunday, November 30th. They're going to have a neutral site game there. 3rd straight season, these two teams will play each other. They've split 1-1 the last 2 years. The last 2 games have been at Hagan. That's why I'm a little why is this not a return game up to Jadwin? But regardless, they'll add a Princeton team who's going to be down Caden Pierce. very young Tigers team coming up this year for Mitch Henderson. But regardless, an Ivy League team with some success the last handful of years for sure, but one of the better mid-majors. St. Joseph's adds them to their schedule for the third straight season.
Also, Xavier Lee triple-double in that game against St. Joe's last year. He transferred to Florida, so he will not be there as well.
So they're going to,
I do remember that one. I was there for that. That was quite the impressive performance. I will never forget a college triple-double. It doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah. Oh, right on. And then one more note, Kyle. Deuce Jones from Trenton, New Jersey, now on the Hawks, not at LaSalle anymore. He will be playing in front of his hometown crowd. So cool for Deuce Jones to get to go home and play a game in his home city. Kyle, one more scheduling note here. Temple, their matchups were announced for the Terry's Chocolate. Never heard of that before. ESPN Events Invitational Feast Week little tournament that they're in. So they're going to play, how about this, UC San Diego on Monday, November the 24th at 4:30 p.m. It's going to be on ESPNU, not Flow Sports. A couple claps for that. UC San Diego, the Tritons, now coached by Clint Allard, who was the associate head coach for the past 11 seasons, under Eric Olin, who led that team to the NCAA tournament last year. A dream season for the Tritons, who recently moved up from D2 as Eric Olin took the head coaching job at New Mexico. So a darling, really, of last year's tournament they're going to get for their first game. And for their second game, Kyle, they might see Princeton. They also might see those Bradley Braves under Brian Wardle, who have been knocking on the door of a tournament berth in the always competitive Missouri Valley Conference at Arch Madness. So it's Princeton or Bradley for their second game on Tuesday, November the 25th. They will play a third game. No idea time, opponent. That is all decided on how their prior two games go. With that, Kyle, two more little notes here. We're going to go back to Temple. This was actually just announced today. They named Andy Allison as their chief of staff, the coaching staff spot that was vacated by Lynn Greer III. Allison most recently served as the chief of staff at Duquesne for Keith Dambrot from 2021 to 2024, which, of course, Kyle, Keith Dambrot's last season, his swan song. They made the tournament for the first time in 50-some years. They won the A-10. They beat BYU in the first round. But Andy Allison, prior to that, a lot of experience here, nearly 25 years coaching and administration, worked at Stockton University, right outside Atlantic City in Galloway, New Jersey, worked at UMass prior under Derek Kellogg for the Minutemen. And then how about this, Kyle? He worked for John Calipari at Memphis, two different stints there, one of which was that Derrick Rose team that was the national runner-up in 2008. So pretty cool. But Andy Allison, the new chief of staff, which should put a bow on the Temple coaching staff with the additions of Andy Allison and Bill Courtney here in recent weeks. Next, Kyle, we're going to talk about another gentleman whose last name is Allison, who also happens to be a chief of staff. However, he's leaving the Big Five and leaving Philadelphia. That's going to be Jason Allison from Drexel, their now former chief of staff. He was just named assistant coach at Coastal Carolina, spent the last 3 seasons as the chief of staff at Drexel. He's originally from the South. He's from North Carolina, from Lincolnton. Shout out to my guy, David Kaplan, with the Coaches podcast, who that's the only reason I know that. I listened to an interview with Jason Allison a while ago to get that info. But originally from North Carolina, moving back home and listening to David's podcast, Kyle, Jason Allison came up to Drexel, which is the northeastmost point he's pretty much been at in his coaching career, because he met Zack Spiker working basketball camps at Winthrop when Greg Marshall was the head coach there, if you haven't heard that name in a while.
I've not heard that name in a while.
Shout out to David for all those nuggets I got from his podcast. But yeah, Jason Allison from the South, Cookout, Waffle House, Buc-ee's, all that good stuff. You don't have to drive 600 miles to go see it anymore. You're right around the corner from all that. But good luck to him as he moves closer to home, getting an assistant job with the Chanticleers. Up until 3 months ago, I was not saying that correctly, but I am now. Good luck to Jason Allison with Coastal Carolina and the Chants. With that, Kyle, the main event, the second time we've had a sitting Big Five head coach on the podcast. Zack Spiker, the head coach of the Drexel Dragons, Kyle. Without further ado, let's do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we have all been waiting for, joining us today. And we're going to do a little Jason Kelsey New Heights introduction here at Cope. I think we should do this from now on. So credit to you and Jason Kelsey. Here we go. Joining us today, the head coach of the Drexel Dragons in his 10th season as a head coach of the Dragons, 17th overall, the 2024 Big Five Coach of the Year, and joining two coaching legends, Bob Knight, Mike Krzyzewski, is the only coaches in Army history to win at least 65 games in their first 5 seasons. Give it up for Zack Spiker. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks so much. That's a very kind intro. Maybe I could travel you with me anywhere we go if you could just do that anytime I meet some new people.
Hey, that's what we're here for. Yeah, Coach.
Great to be here. I've really heard a lot about this. I apologize it's taken so long, Jake. We've been going back and forth over spanning two sports information directors' careers and at Drexel. But, excited to be here and sorry it's taken so long.
No problem. It's been on our end, and I get that you're a busy guy. Just saw you're at the Grand Canyon, so and you're a hard guy to get. Hey, you basketball coaches, you guys are going a million miles an hour all the time. But regardless, we are very happy that you joined us. And Coach, me and Kyle will just take turns firing away at you here. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to start with the transfer portal. I say unfortunately because you're probably sick of it at this point. Can't wait to start practicing and get the season going on with. But when you look at this season, a record number of D1 transfers in the portal. You have D2 guys. You took a D3 transfer in Eli Beard, who we'll discuss. You've gone the JUCO route frequently, but in the last 2 years, 4 JUCO transfers you brought in. When there is this many players in the portal, not to mention you taking guys internationally as well, a pool of thousands of players, how do you go about sifting through all of those guys to pick who will be the best guys to play for Drexel?
Yeah, you want to find people that are going to represent our staff, our department, and our university at the highest possible manner, absolute first class in everything we do. You want them to live out our pillars, our core values: gratitude, respect, compete, appreciate opportunities, respect the process, respect others around you, and then be at your best at all times. We really try and live those and talk about those a lot. And by doing so, you find who is really about the right things. If you call someone in a portal situation and they want to know how many minutes and touches and shots they're going to get in a game, they've kind of answered that question for you a little bit. They may not respect them around their teammates as much. So it is a challenge. But I think 2 years ago, we didn't have anybody in the portal. This past year, 9 of our 13 returned. Now we lost impactful 4 in an impactful 4 in Kobe, Yame, and Cole and Deuce, but everyone else decided to come back and chose to come back, and that's basically what's at 69-70% of our roster chose to come back, and we've added 4 really good guys, really what I would call family members. I really like what they're about so far this summer. But is it daunting? Yes. Is it big? Is it a wide net? Yes. But to answer your question, first and foremost, it starts with having a great coaching staff. And when you've got Paul Fortier, right, Zack Duffy, Will Chavis, Franz Masson out there manning the phones, sifting through the video, sorting the data, figuring out who is our kind of guy and what we're looking for and what complements what we have, that's where you really can kind of get a little bit of a cheat code and cut the corner on some of those areas.
So one more for you in terms of just the makeup of your team. I read this quote. You were quoted in the College Basketball Almanac. This is going back like 2 or 3 years. It was great. You get like 1,000-page PowerPoint slide of every single team in D1. But something that still stuck out to me to this day from that is you were quoted saying, "I think your basketball program should reflect your student body. Drexel has an intense international population. We should reflect that in our local areas." You followed it up with saying that Philadelphia is the best basketball city in the country. So with all that, how long has that been a team-building philosophy for you to pick guys from every walk of life, every corner of the earth?
I think you always should have a program and a group of players that reflect the student body. I just think it's a cleaner way to live, a healthier way to go about business. Yes, we want to win games, of course, right? But there's different ways to do that and go about it and make sure you got to do it in a way that everyone feels connected and about it. If you've got a big international population, how great is it that our international students can connect with, 25% of our roster and say, "Hey, I'm from Russia," right? Or wherever it may be, right? We've got guys from Russia, England, Spain, France, and that's just this year's team. So I've always felt that way. I've always thought that I think you have a better community when everybody has something in common with someone on the basketball team.
Absolutely. And speaking of people you bring in, you brought in 4 transfers this year. I want to highlight one in particular right now. I'll let you give a synopsis on the rest. But Moises Hips from Boise State, local guy, played in the Catholic League at Archbishop Carroll. He offered him out of high school. Obviously, he chose Boise State first. Now he's coming back home. What was the process like bringing him home? And given how familiar you are with him, how was that process?
Yeah, I think that process of the three newcomers, right, probably was the one that was, I don't want to say cleanest, but we were most familiar from a relationship standpoint over time with him. That Moses is an infectious personality, just an amazing person to be around and talk to, and we both felt that way in the high school recruiting process with him. It didn't work out. But this time it did. And I think when we were looking for someone and he was in the portal and we kind of matched back up, it felt like we picked up right where we left off. And, great family, has some Philadelphia connections and ties. I think he was here at Carroll to about his sophomore year. Is that right, Jake?
Yeah, I think he did. It was McEachern, and then he was a Compass prep after, I believe it was that second year.
Compass, Boise, and then here. That process was one of, hey, if we're serious about this. And, sometimes I call certain scenarios, whether you're trying to hire someone or add a player, it's like a flaming arrow. Like when you shoot an arrow, you can't take it back and let it go. Like I didn't want to bring Moses to campus again unless we absolutely knew we were willing to take him. It wasn't, hey, come here and work out. We knew what Moses was and what he could do and what he couldn't do. So that process, Kyle, to answer your question, was a smooth one. I had a great visit with Moses and his family. And, he's a local guy. He's got his cheesesteak spots picked out. He's got his opinions on a couple of things that some of our newer guys may or may not know too much about right now.
And we'll have to get to that a little bit later as well. But obviously, you bring in three other guys as well, and if you want to go over them in this next answer, you can. But besides that, you also did, like you said earlier, retain 10 other players, which is a stark difference from heading into last season when you lost a lot of your roster and had to bring in a bunch of new guys and had some guys come up from being younger. Leagues like the CAA, unfortunately, this happens too with this new transfer portal, although it's not that new anymore. But CAA and other leagues, in that nature, get ravaged by the portal. How are you able to retain all these guys, and how important was it that you retained all these guys?
Yeah, I think retention, first and foremost, whether you're talking about staff or roster, is always going to be a key element to success in whether it's basketball, any sport, or any really successful Fortune 500 company. So whether their role was big or small in previous years, we want guys to have expanded roles. And that's why we're really excited to have 9 players choose to come back. And you can talk about guys that have been here 3 years now. Garfield Turner, right? Tough injury year for him. Continuing to rehab and setting a tone of how you're supposed to go about your business and do things, right? Shane Blakeney in his 4th year with our program, choosing to come back and really kind of carried us late into the season. You look at those last 5 and last 10 game splits in the analytic world and really some impressive numbers that I think if he does that, you're looking at a really, really big year for us this year. And Horace Simmons, right, who has had a more of a reserve role, right, and some spot duty. But when he's been called, it's kind of, if I can give you a baseball reference, he has never really come in a clean inning, right? He's coming in when other guys don't have something going, hey, let's go with Horace here. And he helped us fight back from down 15 to tie the game against Bryant. Had another opportunity at Hampton. A lot of guys weren't at their best. Horace came in and brought energy, had 8 points. And if you see every time he touched the ball and shot, our entire bench was standing up cheering for him. So we have Horace Simmons in his 3rd year with our program. He knows what's going on. He understands it. And we're excited about that. So when you get veteran guys that are coming back, I really think it helps you just have continuity when you're introducing drills and you're talking about that continuity. That's important, And another guy that's been with our program going in his senior year is Max Davis, who's, been in a non-scholarship situation, is doing well in the classroom and setting himself up for success this summer. But he's also around in practice, can't quite get to the breakfast meals or different things, but he brings continuity, and they kind of live our core values out. They talk about them. They answer questions to our younger guys with them in the locker room. So I think any continuity is good continuity, and we're excited about those core veterans being back.
Coach, I want to talk about a guy who did not play for you last year. Not who you think it is. I'm not going to ask you about Garfield. I'm going to ask you about Amari Williams here
Yeah.
because gets drafted second round by the Celtics. And I know you've told the story before, but if you don't mind telling it again, how you found him, because I really think that's a story worth telling. But, how you found him, but how big is it for your program that even though he got drafted and they went up there and said Amari Williams from Kentucky, which I think we need to have a word with the NBA that needs to change. How big is that for your program to see somebody have great success with you and turn that into a professional career?
Well, I think it's huge, and I hope he's not the last one. But Maury Williams really developed during his time at Drexel, and he grew and to the point where he was incredibly valued after graduation and getting his degree at Drexel with the COVID year. Certainly capitalized on that opportunity, and then getting drafted in the second round. First and foremost, I just think you want to be so happy for Amari to have, lightly recruited. It was us and one other school, was the College of Charleston, and took a campus visit to us and then flew down to Charleston and then made his decision. And so very proud of that we stood out and won a big recruiting battle. And then he came over during COVID. If you can imagine at that point in time, coming to the United States could have been a daunting task, very stressful, and he handled it like a very mature young man, and allowed us to coach him. And really wasn't ready to play just yet. And we had James Butler, who was a 1,000-point, 1,000-rebound guy, and so he didn't play a bunch early on. Was working on conditioning, one leg stronger than the other, and some different things, just being a young kid and being around the game in some different areas. But he really, really grew, and just super happy for him. But to touch on how we found him, Robert Driscoll, who was an assistant coach with us at the time, had made some inroads with Mate Okris on our recruiting board. And I had flown over to Myerscough, which is, Manchester, take a left, 45 minutes, you at Myerscough Academy, and was there with their coaching staff and was watching film and talking about Mate and spending time with his parents. And then he was going to turn around and come back to visit campus later that week. So while I was there, they said, "Hey, Coach, we got a couple other guys. Love you to say hello and meet them." Right. And really an impressive team. If you go back and look at it, Great Osabor was there, who ended up being another guy that we had recruited. And I think just finished up at the University of Washington. I think he was at Montana, Utah State, kind of basically followed Danny Sprinkle. And then there was walking across the parking lot, I think from the dorm to the maybe to the gym or to the dining hall, is this big young fella, it's Amari Williams, and you go to shake his hand and it was like, "Can I have my arm back?" So, but just such a mild-mannered and polite young man at the time. And so that was a story. We don't ever get involved with Amari Williams if we don't go after Mate Okris. And you can't have a better ambassador for your program than Mate Okris. And we're fortunate to have won that recruiting battle. He came here, and while Amari wasn't playing as much, Mate Okris, I think, went 15 for 22 in his final 22 threes taken the year we went to the tournament. Went 5 for 5 in a regular season game, and then just caught fire down the stretch in Harrisonburg while the tournament was played down at JMU.
Yeah, and hey, Okris, I still see him at games. I mean, he's still very much around. He's still going to he's still a regular at the deck for sure, even though he's trying to blend in, obviously, with whatever.
He'll never
clothes,
blend in. I love. We get a cup of coffee from time to time, and it's just fun to see him flourish and do so well in a post-basketball career, doing well in the business world, doing some things that he likes to do, a little side hustle, but also doing some other great things. It's fun to talk to him. His dog might be worth a follow on Instagram. Maple has literally thousands of followers, and he and his girlfriend have this dog. And I'm not a big Instagram guy, and we don't have a dog. But if you want to follow Maple, he'd probably appreciate it.
Okay, well, Maple will get a follow from the Big Five podcast. I can guarantee you that.
That's right.
Talking about Big Five, and talking about some scheduling here, Coach. We'll start with the Big Five. going into your third season now. And when you look at the crowds that you've had on campus the last 2 years for the LaSalle game, for the Temple game, down at the Wells Fargo Center for the Big Five Classic.
Yeah.
I was at the game against Penn State, that even though it was during the Penn State football game, you still had a nice Drexel crowd down there. Clearly, the campus and the alumni are very excited about being in the Big Five.
Yeah, I think the opportunity has been long overdue, and we're excited to be the coaches and the players at Drexel when they got into the Big Five. And this was something that, you'd love to have seen. What would Mike Anderson have done in the Big Five, right? What would it have been like for a lightly recruited tuba player from Overbrook High School, Malik Rose, for everyone in Philadelphia to pass on him and then let Malik Rose go nuts with Coach Harry and Coach on the sidelines? What he would have been like in some Big Five matchups in this setting would have been amazing. But, it's taken a while, and we're thrilled to be in the Big Five. It's taken a lot of work behind the scenes. Our athletic director, Maisha Kelly, has really done a tremendous job spearheading and keeping this at the forefront and allowing Drexel to be in the Big Five. And Jake, Kyle, we couldn't be more excited. I think our first 2 years, we've had some incredibly competitive and very close games. Two great wins over Nova and Penn, but also some really competitive other games that, one possession games, and the crowds have been amazing. I think our administration has bought into the rollout world, the Big Five world with the streamers. And I thought we had a really good showing last year, Wells Fargo versus Penn, and certainly the Villanova game as well. So I think that energy will continue. This year, we're in a new pod, as you guys know and have discussed on this podcast, right? Our road game will be at St. Joe early on. I believe that's a Friday night, November 7th. Are you guys tracking that? Is that the right date? And then we'll be home against Penn. Okay. And that's a Friday night, the following Friday night, I believe. So I may be off on my dates here a little bit, but road game at St. Joe, home game against Penn. Now it's Penn, it's a Big Five game, and the battle for 33rd Street all rolled into one action-packed night there. It's a Friday night, and we got to turn around and play Old Dominion on Sunday. That's the coach brain thinking, like, hey, we got to make sure we're pretty efficient with our time there. But listen, the Big Five only takes place. It's only in Philadelphia. There's no other city for college basketball in America that does it as well as Philadelphia. There may be other cities that's got, you got 3 or 4 teams, you got 5 teams, whatever. But one, are they involved off the floor like we are with Coaches versus Cancer? Are they involved in just respect with each other, or some schools won't even talk to each other? There's so many storylines and so much history with these schools, and the coaches are almost all intertwined and connected and have worked with each other or coached against each other in different leagues. For you guys, the content never ends, really.
No.
But I think we sell it as a recruiting piece, right? You get to be a part of one of the biggest parts of college basketball in the East Coast that there is, the Big Five basketball. And so to play in those games, it's a tremendous honor. And I think that, there's a little extra getting ready for those games. Our guys know it, and they're excited about it, and they love the gold jersey games.
Got me fired up. Man.
Yeah, well, Coach, speaking of
okay, Kyle, now we got to get you to the deck to see one of those games.
I know. And for you guys all listening, not that we want to reference so much of, the post or the pre-pod festivities when we were talking to Coach, but I did admit that I had not yet been to the DAC, which you guys know, of course, but not that I haven't wanted to. There's obviously been scheduling conflicts with me. I used to work for the Philadelphia Union, so there's some scheduling things there and other things. But yes, I need to get to the DAC. That's priority number 1 for me this year. So
all right,
that's all. That's all I'm saying.
Credential waiting for you. Okay.
I will be there. Thank you, Coach.
How about a Big Five podcast episode during shoot around of the Penn Drexel game that Friday?
Well, now you're talking.
We're in.
Now you're talking.
Don't ask us if we're in. Just tell us what time.
November 21st. Yeah, we'll be there.
You got it.
Mark it down.
But, Coach, speaking of your game that you're going to play against Penn, you're going to be playing against Fran McCaffrey now. You get a different face than your good friend Steve Donahue that's been there across the street from you for so long. And there's 3 new coaches in the Big Five this year. Kevin Willard at Nova, and then a guy in Darius Nichols, who, correct me if I'm wrong, are you familiar with from your time at West Virginia?
Very familiar with D Nice, as we call him. Darius, I was on the staff with Coach Beeline when we recruited and hosted Darius on his official visit. And Darius is for those in the Philadelphia community who haven't had the chance to meet Darius, spend time with him, you're going to love him. He brings a great deal of energy, an exciting coach, was a really good player at West Virginia, was on that team that upset Chris Paul and company and Justin Gray in the NCAA tournament when Wake Forest, I believe, was a 2 seed with Skip Prosser as the head coach. So Darius, people are going to like Darius. We go back a long time. I mean, that was many years ago. Darius committed to play basketball at West Virginia. We're talking 2000, summer of 2005, I think. So I guess 20 years ago now. So, yeah, you guys, Philadelphia is going to enjoy Darius.
And we had him on a couple months ago. He was awesome. He was awesome to talk to. He was very thorough and in depth with everything he was talking about, very energetic, like you said. So we were thrilled to have him on. We're thrilled to have him in the Big Five. And funny how, paths can cross after all these years too. But yeah, so Coach, you talked a little bit about matchups for this season so far. Well, let's get into them a little bit more. You're going to play your cross-street rival Penn, like we just talked about. You're going to play Steve Donahue and St. Joseph's for the first time as an official member of the Big Five, and of course Billy Lang you have history with as well. So your initial thoughts on the two pod games that Drexel's going to have in the Big Five this year?
I think this is interesting, and I don't know how you feel other coaches that you've spoken to, but we're still rounding out our roster. We don't start school till September 22nd. So I haven't exactly done a deep dive into opponents yet when we're still trying to add a piece to our own puzzle right now. So, but I do know this. I do know that St. Joe's going to be well coached. I do know that Penn's going to be very well coached. I do know that it's going to be a tactically very sound game on both sides. It's going to be possession games where you've got to make sure you're tight on defense. And it's going to be momentum plays, whether it's a second chance point, offensive free throw checkout, right? Those hustle plays inevitably are going to come down to being the difference in all these games. So many of college basketball games are, but especially these Big Five games. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I know we had a triple overtime with Temple and Sal a couple years ago, but for the most part, these are absolute bare knuckle, knockdown, drag out slugfest that look like a February conference game. Everyone's going to know everybody's action. Everyone's going to know it. I mean, TJ Powers in our gym playing pickup all the time, right? Our guys know him. They know what he does, and maybe they know what they can exploit as well. We're down to playing there, so we're 2 blocks away. The familiarity with the players and each other is something that's at just a different level. So they're going to be heavily contested games. I think Penn has made some moves in the portal space to get some players there that were not on last year's roster. And I know St. Joe has been very active in different ways as well. So we have our work cut out for us in both of those games. And I'd like to think if you spoke to those coaches, they would say they have their work cut out for them against us.
Fair enough. Coach, one more Big Five question, then I want to ask you another scheduling one as well. But we've asked coaches and players we've had on here before about what is preached about the Big Five, whether it's during recruiting, before the Big Five Classic, what players have learned throughout their time in the Big Five and the history of it. Obviously, with Drexel being the newest school in the Big Five, maybe the history isn't so much passed down as a tradition as it is at other schools that, coaches and players that we've talked to so far. So in your, entering year 3 in the Big Five, what have you preached to your players and even staff too, as to the importance of the Big Five in the city of Philadelphia?
I mean, whether you're in the Big Five or not, there's history and the tradition. I think you're always trying to educate your players about your school and the city that they're in and where they play. And I think that we talk about it a great deal, understanding, hey, guys, this drill may not feel like it's that important on Monday, August 18th, but I'm telling you, right, in a Big Five game on the road at St. Joe, this is going to be a big thing. We need to make sure we're connected, we're on a string, we're talking, we're doing those things. So we talk about it a great deal.
Fair enough. And then for this year, speaking of the Big Five Classic, Xfinity Mobile Center now is the new name of the venue. But not the only time you're going to play there. You scheduled Syracuse there as part of a doubleheader with LaSalle. Second straight season, you're going to have a power conference opponent there. How have these games come about for you, and what does it mean for you guys to be playing a school in the ACC?
Well, I think that we are trying to create our own brand and make sure that we found a way to engage with our fans, make sure that we've got a spot in Philadelphia basketball where it's different than others. And we've worked hard to have that relationship through our administration and Greg Cusick and Maisha Kelly connecting with Wells Fargo and them being able to support us and having some games. So we've had, you think about it, Nova, Penn, Penn State, Syracuse, and I think we've got some other things coming down the pipe that we'll be excited to announce soon. But it's when you're in a pro city, you love the chance to play in a pro environment. And I think we did a study and we looked at all the teams in the CAA and how many of them play in NBA arenas, how many of them play twice on their schedule, in their non-conference schedule, NBA arena. There's no one else in our league doing it. And so that's something that separates us a little bit in the recruiting process and talk about, hey, exposure, stage, opportunity. Most of our schools aren't even NBA pro towns. Northeastern is. That's about it, right? Jake, you guys can run through the roster real quickly, but I would say that's probably it. Towson is not.
So
You got Hampton, maybe. Is that more like Norfolk or DC?
Yeah, Hampton is in Norfolk. Yeah,
Okay.
They're trying to connect Hampton with the Wizards.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be it. I mean, Towson's probably closer, honestly, but remind me not to ask you for directions next time I'm getting in the car. No, but I think, back to the point, it's an advantage. It's something that we're able to do. We're excited about it. And again, we've worked hard, and it takes effort, and scheduling is something that's very difficult and very hard to do. And, our assistant coach who was just with us, Jason Allison, spent a lot of time on that. And we put together a schedule we're very excited about for this year.
Coach, I got one more scheduling question for you. You don't have to reveal anything if you don't want to, but before we get into your roster this year, I have to ask you about the Delaware rivalry. They're headed out to Conference USA. You've said publicly that, hey, that you want to continue doing this, and hopefully it's something that they would like to as well. Regional standpoint, budget, the rivalry you guys have had, always being a team that you play twice in conference play.
Yeah.
I know what your thoughts are on it, but is it something that Delaware has been receptive that you guys can have a non-conference home with each other?
I think so. I think sometimes I get on that podium after a game, I may have a little bit of adrenaline running through there and some probably get a little bit anxious there. But, Martin and Bill Phillips, who handle the scheduling down at Delaware, do a really good job. When you're going into a new league, you're kind of leaving one. They play 18 games. You go to a new one, they play 20. What is the league policy? How many non-ones do you play? And Conference USA is a good league, and I think they had a lot of things to figure out. So year one, it's not going to work out. But I know that we've talked a lot extensively. We should play. It's the right thing to play. It's great for the region. We'd love to have a series where we're playing once a year, sometime in the non-conference schedule, where we are going to their place, they're going to our place every other year. I think it would be great. So it didn't work out. Yes, we want it to work out. And the other answer is, too, as I calm down, come back from the game, they want it to work out as well. And, they're easy to deal with. We're just trying to find a time and date to make it work.
Right on. Well, hopefully that comes to fruition for you both if it's something you both like to do. Coach, moving on to this year's roster, before I ask you about a specific player, when you look at last year's team and a lot of your teams in the past, the player development that you have is pretty remarkable. When you first started speaking on this year program, you had said that, hey, we have guys coming in, bigger roles. I'm excited about that as they continue to grow. But last year, terrific example. You lose a bunch of guys from the season before, and your replacements you still had on the roster, and guys who get incrementally better, thrive in bigger roles. Cole Hargrove, Kobe McGee, Deuce Drake you bring in, and he does well. Shane Blakeney, who we'll ask you about, but just in general, how do you get the most out of guys to grow year to year? How is your player development this consistent year in, year out?
Well, I'm just making some notes here, some different things, right? Justin Moore, Luke House, Monte Okris, Amari Williams, leave, and you kind of add Jason Drake, and after that, everybody else is in-house product that really jumped out, right? And then we want to keep that tradition going. I would argue you could go further back, though, because you could go Tremaine Isabel came to us and then went to St. Louis, took them to the tournament. Alejandro Mir left us, went to Minnesota. Cam Winder used his COVID option, exercised his COVID year to go to Penn State. And I think, our trajectory in terms of win-loss hasn't ever really taken like a big dip. And that's hard to do. We do pride ourselves on our consistency. And one of those areas to be consistent is just, are you dedicated and committed to getting that individual work with the players? Because you got to carve it out. And maybe it's, yes, guys come in the morning, get shots, come in the afternoon, get shots. That's fine. But in practice, actual shots where we're working on plays and different things, where are they getting those shots? And I think our staff has done a good job making sure that they remind me when I want to get going a little too quick. Hey, coach, we got to get the pep in, right? And that's an acronym for us, Player Enhancement Program. It's something I learned from Brad Stevens and the Celtics back when the Sixers were in the playoffs and playing the Celtics. We had a chance to spend some time together, and we talked about some different things. That was one of the takeaways I took from it. Will Chavis was our initial guy in charge of our PEP program. It's now been passed on to Franz Massenat, and he's done a terrific job with it. We're working on finishes. We're working on ball handling. Ralph Akuda, a name you may hear more of this year than past years, hitting three-pointers today in practice. Right? How many is he going to take? I don't know, but we're going to work at it, and that's his skill development, and that's part of his PEP process. And so PEP has been big for us. We continue to be committed to it. Now I think that it's happened over a number of years. You can see where, hey, why would we ever not do that? So that's a 15 to 20 minute part of practice where someone comes to the next segment of practice. I feel like I got better today because I worked on my left-hand jump hook. I worked my up and under. I worked on my two-dribble pull-up, whatever it may be. Guys get into smaller areas of practice where it's just them and maybe three other guys, maybe two other guys in a hoop for 10, 15 minutes. A lot of reps, a lot of work, a lot of confidence, and then it translates to games. So I give our players the credit for making sure they're going at the right speed and pushing themselves. And I also give our staff credit. And Franz has done a great job in terms of being creative and how we go about it and what we do.
Love that. Love that. All right. Cope wasn't going to ask you about a specific player. I am now. And I want to ask you about Garfield Turner, who we mentioned earlier on this pod as well. But I want to quote an article from the Inquirer, and Jeff Nyberg said earlier this spring, while you were on vacation, Garfield Turner experienced a death in his family and was with loved ones in Virginia, and you weren't too far from him. So you got in your car and you drove 45 minutes to go give him a hug, which, first of all, is incredible. But second of all, how has your relationship with Garfield Turner impacted you, and how has his relationship with his teammates and the coaching staff impacted your program?
Yeah, Kyle, I think all of those details are accurate in terms of going to visit GT. He just had his grandmother just passed away. He's got family in my hometown, so I don't want to make it look like I drove. I was home visiting my family. He was there in that same area. It was probably 45 minutes away, whatever it might have been, but it wasn't like a huge deal. It wasn't a big trip or anything. I was there. He was there. I did want to see him. I did want to spend time with him. It was important. I think if you can do that with any of your guys, though, to spend time with guys. GT specifically, I didn't know he had family from my hometown in the recruiting process, which is an X for me, and not being detailed enough and not knowing. So when he brought that up, I was like, "What? You have people from Morgantown, West Virginia?" And so we have connected there a couple of times, and he is such an infectious personality. Right now, he's not able to practice, but he coaches one of our teams every day. And he's calling timeout. He's getting on dudes. He's talking about the right things. He just breathes all the right things about our program. So I can't wait for him to be back on the floor and healthy. He brings the physicality. Chris Doherty, who I think led the league in technical fouls, GT probably instigated half of those, I would think, at Northeastern. So he's just one of those guys that when he's on your team, you love him. If you play against him, you absolutely hate playing against him. And he makes for great practices. So that's how I would answer that question for you, Kyle. But I love GT. I love all of our guys. I love this group. It's a special group. It's already kind of got its own little identity, and it's going. They're a very caring group. They're working hard. They're in the gym, but GT's the guy that I think when he gets healthy and cleared can kind of take us up to another notch and level in terms of physicality.
Absolutely. And you mentioned him, being off the court, still being involved with everything
Oh,
with the team.
yeah.
Uh, Even on game days, you could see it on the sidelines. And although he didn't play a whole lot, how much of an impact has he been to your young bigs, especially last season and getting ready for this season as well?
Yeah, you know what? At one point, I think he's like, Coach, I'm sitting next to all the coaches. Can I get one of those quarter zips? And Coach tell you, sure, whatever you need, Coach G. I can't wait for that quarter zip to get thrown away and put a uniform in. But you're right, Kyle. He's another voice with a different perspective. He's kind of, hey, I know what Coach is saying is this, but this is really important here too. Make sure it's good. So it just reinforces. I love spending time with him, whether it's after practice, before practice, even today, I just kind of called him and said, hey, man, am I talking crazy or do you think we're getting the message across to our guys? We're on the same page. And he's just a great sounding board for the heartbeat and pulse of our team. And you got to be careful when guys are injured. And I may have done this with him some even last year, is when a guy gets injured, they kind of aren't in your vision as much that they can kind of lose a voice or lose connection sometimes, or you can lose connection with them. And I think that I'm very aware of that with him. He's taught me to be better with that. And like you're saying, he's made me more aware of when you're injured doesn't mean you can't have an impact in practice. And like right now, I think we had 3 guys didn't practice today, or maybe 4. 2 had the blue team, 2 had the gold team. And when that team loses, they feel like garbage. They know they got to do something and figure it out.
Coach, got to ask you about Shane Blakeney now, another guy who's now it's quick. I mean, college goes by fast, but this is now one of your elder statesmen. And
Yeah.
was your super sub last year. Essentially, you've called him a 6 starter, but conference tournament, a career high 24 points in that loss to Towson. And in that press conference, I was sitting front row. You said, this is a guy that will start for us.
Yeah.
And, when you see his growth, you mentioned, hey, if we could have a great year if he can have a great year. And his next step now, role player, now he's your 6th man. That next step is for him to be a starter and be a leader on your team. Like, what does that look like? And just how crucial will his play be to your success this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret. Shane Blakeney is a key to one of the big keys to our success. I would also say this, though. Shane didn't start because that's what we felt as a staff best complemented our basketball program. 100% is a starter, play starter minutes, and like to the point, guys, he knew when he was going in. I knew when he was going in. It was just a couple games into the season. It was like, all right, we know that first dead ball before the media or the media, you're going in. It was not even, it was like, all right, good, yeah, go. Like, it wasn't like me looking for him. Hey, he doesn't know when he's going. He knew when he was putting himself in the game. And, you get to a point with guys and you've done enough life with them that you get to these final years and you want to be connected with them in so many different ways as players and as people. The growth that Shane Blakeney's had individually, the growth our relationship has had over time. And when you get him, be a great interview for you guys. Even talk back to the recruiting process, talk back to his freshman year. It wasn't always, life wasn't always a box of chocolates. I'll just say that, right? I mean, it was tough, and I was tough on him. And we both grew and have grown to understand each other even more so now. And so I'm just thrilled for him to be in this spot. It's for him to be, hey, a year ago, right? If I could ask everyone, did you think Kobe McGee was going to have the year he had? I don't think they thought he was going to be good, right? Then they went into a year ago, right? You think Cole Hargrove was going to be where he is right now and did what he did. We believed in him, right? But the reality of that happening, we weren't so aware. We weren't so sure that was going to happen, right? Excuse me. And I think with Shane is the next guy. And I think he's done more going into the year than those other guys had. And we're super excited for what he can do. He's got a great voice. His leadership was on display. Even in the Big Five game at Wells Fargo, we needed to play point guard. He just kind of stopped everything and directed traffic. No, this is the play we're trying to run. Go here, go there. Just took his time. So he's got that voice on the floor. He's got shot making ability. He's got length. He's got height. And he's bulked up. I mean, I bet he's up 10, 12 pounds from last year. You're going to see a 6'5", 200+ pound point guard on occasion, right? And other times he can be a wing player, but he's a great defender. He knows what he's got to do defensively, and he really has grown his game to be able to score at all three levels.
And we did have him on, Coach. A couple of weeks ago, we did. He was a great interview, great dude to talk to and to walk through his now going on 4 years that he's been there. And I got to ask you one more here, talking about that conference tournament game I was at, because although you guys lost, you gave the number one seeded Towson Tigers all they could have asked for. And not only that game, but the other two times you saw them last year, you gave them as much of a headache as anybody did in the CAA. But the thing that stuck out to me was, even with the comeback and even though you fell short, you said after the game, I couldn't say this in past years, but there's not a game where this team didn't bring it. With the newcomers you have, with the guys you have returning, how does this team this year have that same level of energy and consistency?
Well, I think some of that mindset and toughness and attitude, you think to the guys that were new last year that are veterans. Already, Victor Panoff has just set a tone in his work ethic. He's such an everyday guy. Kavan Vanderhorst getting in the gym with a regular, consistent basis. We've seen William Garcia Adson, who played basically the four the entire game against Towson because Vic couldn't play. Remember, Victor didn't play in that game. I would love to have played Towson at full strength later in the season. Cole Hargrove didn't play the final 10 minutes at Towson. Vic didn't play the whole game in the tournament. So like to play them at full strength. They'll be better. They'll be improved. But I think that mindset and that attitude, I really think that brings, last year we had a players-only meeting, Jake, Kyle, and you'd say, okay, if there was a players-only meeting, maybe it was Kobe, right? Some of our older guys last year called it. No, we had a meeting that was run by Vic and Kavan Vanderhorst. And so they understood what was important. They understood what was going on. They did the majority of the speaking. And now here they are, returning guys, only in their second year, but they got more experience in that. So I'm excited for this group to bring it and compete like that. And that'll be a standard that we certainly are going to expect them. We expect everyone to do that. But we'd love to be able to see these new guys jump in and help out.
And we are absolutely excited to see it. But before we can get there and send you on your way for the year, we got to ask you some rapid fire questions to end here. So I'm going to start here. I know you mentioned your recruiting story with Amari Williams. Do you have any other recruiting stories that you would say are your favorite of the ones in your 10 years at Drexel or even in your time at Army as well?
So many. I mean, the Amari Williams story is probably told the most, but the Mate Oker story is one that was really unique because Mate came over on his visit, and it was a bad practice. Maybe of my 10 years, I would say it's one of the worst practices we've ever had. And I believe Fran Fraschilla was watching practice, so it made it even more frustrating that we weren't looking so great, right? And at one point, I really jumped all over one of our players in my way. Like I'm not like a tyrant, right? But in my way, I got after one of our guys, and an assistant coach comes and say, "Coach, you do know it's in front of a recruit." And I said, "Good. I hope he sees all of it. And I hope he understands if he plays with that effort and doesn't play hard, I'm going to be all over him just like I am this guy right now." And it's a bold move, Cotton. We'll see how it plays out, right? It's a bold strategy. That could have gone one way or the other. And Mate understood what was right, what was wrong, what was supposed to be happening right there. And he knew why I was annoyed and frustrated. So that's probably a good one. There's been other ones where we're supposed to share a visit with somebody else, and we take the liberty of, hey, why don't you just stay here that second night instead of, we usually do 24-hour visits. Maybe we turn into a 36-hour visit, and then they're unable to go to the other school. There's some gamesmanship in that, but The Okrist one, it was kind of a joke for a while. It's like, hey, we got a big recruit. And it's like, coach, you going to yell at the team again a lot before? Every time we yell at the team, we get a good player to come visit. I can tell you we got a 50 and 5 drill we did as a shooting drill. This is when you could do on-campus evaluations. Cam Winter came and visited after his prep year. We worked him out. And, the goal's 50. Trevor John, I think 78 or 80 was a record. Depending on how Cam and I talk about it, I think it was 32 or 35. It was not a big number. All right, it was 35 max. And we still said, hey, we still love him, want to go with him and play with him because he did so many other things. And it ends up being like a 38, 40% three-point shooter for us. So it's not an end-all, be-all drill. It's a toughness drill. But that was when I remember he was there. And, his mom wanted him to do well, too. She was yelling, come on, you got to make some shots. It was pretty good.
Coach, next one I got for you. Quick one here. Worst visiting locker room you've been in?
Oh man, guys, it no longer exists. How about that?
Is it Northeastern?
No. It no longer exists. It's got a brand new arena.
Oh, LaSalle.
They've done a great job revamping things, and I look forward.
Trying to get him in trouble.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
All I'm going to say is it no longer exists.
Okay. Fair enough.
Fair. Good answer.
All right, Coach. You as a player in a big game, and you have to choose between having two Army coaching legends as your coach to have on your sideline. Coach K, Bob Knight. Who are you choosing to be your fearless leader in this basketball game?
Let me make sure I get the question right. Who's going to coach me?
Yes.
I'm going to go with Coach K. Coach Che was on our staff, played for Coach Knight. We coached Ryan Whitman, whose dad, Randy Whitman, played for Coach Knight at Indiana. So I know some of those stories. Right. And but both, geez, how do you pick? Those are two Hall of Fame coaches. And so me being a bit of a younger generation, I think the opportunity to have played and been coached by Coach K at Army, that'd be pretty cool.
Coach, walk us through your game day routine. I hear you run the Rocky steps for every game. You still do that?
Yeah, I'm probably on year 3 or 4 of doing that. It's been a good thing, but we'll do some sort of walkthrough and film. I like to get in there earlier than coaches would on a normal game day, and just kind of get some time to myself, make sure there's any last second edits or clips you want to watch. Then meet with the staff, meet with the team, remind them of a couple things. Then we show a little video clip why we win. A couple years ago, I started kind of doing that on my own, just probably 3 minutes of clips, why we're going to win this game, what we need to do, whether it's a rebound, execution, rebounding, checkout. Show that to the guys, and then they'll eat, and then get a workout in, find my way to the Rocky Steps. The guys like it sometimes. I send a video out like when I'm on the Rocky Steps. Let's go tonight, 7 o'clock, right? But then after that, cup of coffee, and then kind of relax, ready to go.
All right.
Right on.
Last one, and it is the $1 million question, so be ready. We ask all of our guests who come on this question. Coach, you've been coaching in the city for 10 years now. I'm sure you've had your chance to try your fair share of cheesesteaks.
Alessandro's.
Okay, you beat us to it.
Okay.
You beat us to it. Alessandro's, very, very common answer.
Yeah, I will say this. I think a sneaky order, if you like a little spice to it, a buffalo chicken egg roll at the Landmark Grill underneath the DAC is really, really good.
Okay.
It's really good. Like if you're gonna come to the DAC, go early, get a 6-pack appetizer, buffalo chicken egg rolls. You will not be disappointed.
Sounds like something I have to do as soon as November rolls around. That's.
Yeah. I don't want to be a cheesesteak connoisseur. That's a lot of bread. That's a lot of calories. I do not want to get into that category right there. But so the egg rolls is a nice compromise right there. But the buffalo chicken egg rolls at Landmark are very good.
Cope, we're gonna have to check it out.
Good stuff. We asked for a cheesesteak recommendation, and we stayed for some buffalo chicken egg rolls. Thanks, Coach. We'll take it.
We're foodies. We'll take anything we can get. Absolutely. Coach, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. We very much appreciate your time, talking to us about all of Drexel, all of your history, and we're very much looking forward to this season. And Cope, any final thoughts too for Coach here?
Coach, it was well worth the wait. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the dwindling summer we have here, and good health, good luck, good health to you as you hit the court. We will see you at the deck for sure.
Thanks so much, guys. Love to have you at practice. Come by and talk about our new guys as well. All right. Take care.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.